All right, guys, welcome back to part 2 of chapter 3, lesson 22. And we're talking about multiples of 10. And we left off on this slide on our last video. And we have right here our numbers. We have the dividend of 1,587, and the divisor here is 30. And so a trick to dividing really big numbers like this is to think about things we do know. So we could think about what these numbers have in common. And so right here, you can see that 30 could go into 1500 if we were to guesstimate that. And 1500 is close to 1587. And when we look at the numbers on the left, you can see that 3 and 15 are something that we know how to do. And so that's a way that we could simply divide 30 into 115 because we know that 3 goes into 15 5 times. And if we just slide that over to the 150 and add us a 0, then we can get a quotient there of 50. And so that helps us to take these really big numbers and make them more manageable. And so we know approximately that 50 times 30 is 1500. And so we're really close to that. And then we can add in we can divide the next 30s up until we get to 87, or we could do some multiplication. There's a couple different ways we're going to look at it. Another way we could do is we could round this up to 30 divided for 1800, divided by 30, where 1800 is our dividend and 30 is our divisor. And you can see that 3 and 18 have something in common too. And so 3 and 18 would be 6. So you slide that over and you would add a 0, and that would be 60. And so that's another way that you can tackle this. And going back to this, the way that you could then check yourself is if you were to take 1587 and subtract 1500 from it, and you would get 87. And you could just divide 30 into 87. You would get 2. So your answer would be 52 with a remainder of 27. That's a much simpler and much quicker way to divide this problem without having to do all the long steps of long division. And so there's some mental math involved there, but nothing that you can't handle. Okay, next we have the dividend 6,543 divided by 80, which is our divisor. And what we have here is we're going to take this number again, and we're going to look at 6,500. Well, we could round that down to 6,400 because 6,408 or 64 and 8 have some commonality, and we know that 8 goes into 64. So if we were to look at it like that, we could simply put 80 into 6,400, sorry guys, and we would get 80. And then of course you could multiply that out and get yourself 6,400, subtract that from 6,543, have yourself 143 left over, and then fill in the rest. And so that is a way of estimating. Another way is you could go up to 7,200 because 8 and 72, we know that that's 9. 8 goes into 72 9 times. So 7,200, we would go 90 times. And then, so if you see that, you're just adding your zeros. So just some mental math again there to help you. So we're looking at the assignment today, and the assignment is on page 54 and 55. And again, it says to complete numbers 1 through 50, and we're going to do 2 through 50 if we truly want to do even. So we're going to do 2 through 50. And so let's take a look at our directions here so I can explain them to you. So looking at your book, you have numbers 1 through 6. Says choose the divisors that the number is divisible by. Okay, so you need to get out your divisibility rules worksheet. There are some at the beginning of part 1. There's the rules are listed there. There's also in your Google Classroom, there is that worksheet that has all the divisibility rules on it. It's more of a photograph than a worksheet, but you can pull that up and use that, can't even talk today. Use that to help you with your homework. All right, on 7 through 21, and again, you'd be answering 8 through 20. It's long division there, and so you just do step by step. And if you get confused on the step-by-step process, please go back to lesson 21 and look at it again. And if all else fails, ask, because that's why I'm here. Okay, 22 through 26 is use your mental math. So looking at that, every one of those problems has a 0 on it. So what you're going to be doing is, like on number 22, it says 140 divided by 20. We're just going to knock those zeros off and make that 14 divided by 2, and you're going to get 7. And so that is a way, as long as there's a 0 on both sides, you can take off 1 and 1 and then make the math much easier. And so that's how you do some mental math on that. On problems 27 through 32, it says use the statement to write an equation and solve. So when you're looking at Michael has 145 marbles, you can use that information to solve the rest of the problems, and of 27 through 29, and then Madeline has 129 flower seeds. You're going to use that to solve 30 and 32. Looking down at the next problems, it says write an equation and solve. Draw a picture to illustrate. Explain what could be done with the remainders. So your first question says 60, or I guess it says, the first one on 33 is an example, says 63 golf balls shared by 9 golfers. Okay, so your groups are 9 golfers, and you want to take all 63 balls and spread them out between all 9 golfers. So draw me a picture of golfers and their golf balls, okay? Let me see how that looks. You're actually going to do 34 and 35, so that would just be an example. So I guess just 34. So make 34, 110 pencils in groups of 5. So show me what that looks like. Number 36 through 40 says use mental math to solve. Again, we've got these zeros here. So make sure you're lining things up properly and knocking off your zeros as you need to. 41 through 44, which is just 42 and 44, complete the table. This is one of those tricky tables where it has confusing information. So if you look at 42, it says a rule of divided by 8. And it says in and out. I don't know why it says in and out. That makes no sense to me. So what they're saying is that if you divide 32 by 8, what will you get? And so we know that that's 4. So in the out column, we will write 4. And then, of course, going on, you would say 8 divided into 320. And what would you get out of that? So it's kind of confusing in the way they wrote that. On 44, it says rule is that's a minus 100. And so for 1600, you're subtracting 100 from each one of those numbers in the in column. So 1600 minus 100, and the answer would be your out column. And then, of course, you have practice and application, which goes over the last 3 chapters that we've learned. And I know in the past I've not assigned these, but I think they're important so you keep up with your knowledge. So 45 through 50, just doing evens with that one as well. Good luck. If you have any questions, make sure first you look over your directions carefully, listen to your videos, and then, of course, message me as needed to. All right, good luck.